Good evening and welcome to Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation. It is Monday night all over again. I am your host, Donna Gray Banks, and our guest tonight is Reberca David, CPA, author of 101 Things Your CPA Wants You to Know Regarding Your Business. She is going to be at the Fresh Book Festival, so welcome to the family, Reberca. We are going to have a good time in February.
Thank
So
you.
You're welcome. Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation is brought to you by Eilish Diamonds LLC, Ladero Press, Milton McCulloch, A Dante Production, and the Fresh Book Festival, which will be held in the beautiful city of Daytona Beach on 23, 24, 25 February. And we just got confirmation that the film festival will be at Embry-Riddle University in their major theater. We're really excited about that. Mr. Stan Harrison is our sponsor. So thank you very much, Mr. Harrison, for sponsoring the Fresh Book Film Festival at Embry-Riddle University. If you have any questions for Reberca, please leave them in the chat room. And this conversation is being recorded. So before we get into your entrepreneurial blueprint, because that's pretty much what it is, talk about how important it is to choose the appropriate business structure and talk about the top 4 briefly: LLC, sole proprietorship, C Corps, and nonprofits, if you will.
Of course. Again, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So choosing the correct business structure is, laying the foundation. So you have the different options. When you set up your business with the state, you can set up as an LLC, a corporation, or a nonprofit. And basically, an LLC is, well, a single member LLC is you're a sole proprietor, meaning it's just you running the business. And an LLC is the difference between an LLC and a corporation is an LLC is if you expect the business to last only for your lifetime. So there's single member LLCs and multi-member LLCs, which are basically just partnerships.
Right.
So yeah, so if you expect the business to only last your lifetime, it's something you can pass down to your kids, but you only expect it to last your lifetime. It could be a side hustle, something you do from home. But then you have a corporation, and a corporation is, to me, I like to tell clients, think big. Not that your LLC isn't thinking big,
Right.
but think the Nikes, think like the Apples. Once the owners, the people who started the corporation, once they passed away, their legacy continued to live on through other people. So if you plan on going public someday, offering shares to the public, then that's what a corporation is for, because an LLC cannot go public. That's really the only main difference. Both provide you with the liability protection that your business needs. And of course, a nonprofit is not for personal gain. So basically all of the revenue that comes in is supporting a cause, whatever cause you choose.
And so this was another question further down, but since we're talking about structure, can you have a business that's just a DBA?
No, so a DBA is operating under a legal like a legal company, not a corporation, just a legal company. So you would have to set up the LLC or the corporation, and then you can have a DBA underneath it. So for example, if you provide a service, like let's say me, I'm a CPA, I can structure my business as an LLC or a corporation. But like, let's say I decided to start selling, my CPA's black shirts or apparel.
Right.
I can have a DBA that's operating under whatever the LLC is. And that way I don't have to create a whole new business. It's all one, but just different branches.
And so how is that accountability? Is it through the umbrella, or is it through the parent company? Or through in other words, when I have to report the earnings, is it done under the parent company or under the DBA?
So it's done under the parent company. For example, when you file a tax return,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ever noticed on your tax returns, because for some strange reason, my clients don't like to look at the tax returns, but
Mm.
it would say the name of the business, the trade name, which would be whatever the LLC or corporation is, and under it, it has the DBA option. So if you're
Mm.
operating under a different name.
And so thank you. That's very clear. Is there any other corporations anyone wants to talk about as far as business is concerned? I think we covered the main ones. So your financial accountability is one of the number one reasons small business fail, right? Tell our
Yes.
audience, in your professional opinion, what is the biggest mistake from the beginning most people make?
So a lot of so I work with a lot of businesses, as you know, of course, as a CPA does. I work with a lot of businesses. I manage their books, and a lot of clients, their favorite thing to say is, "I don't do numbers." I hate that saying. I truly don't like it, because I feel like that's their main issue. We're not going to get into it too deep, but like, you see everything that's going on with FTX right now. I just think it's so crazy. But if you're planning on starting a business, you need to do numbers. Like, you don't have to be great at it, but you should at least have a basic understanding. Or hire someone who has an understanding and talk to them very regularly. Um, so yes, a lot of clients, they don't set up their books properly. So, you start a business, like, let's say you want to make t-shirts and you're great at it. I feel like that's the operations part of it, and you could really excel at that. But if you're really not excelling in your financials, how do you know that the business is making money? How do you know that you're actually showing a profit? Or how do you know, like, you need to adjust your budget? So that's honestly, to me, the biggest mistake that most businesses make, is that they don't keep track of their finances. There's a lot of other mistakes, but I think that one is the major mistake. And financial mistakes can also cause a very nasty audit with the IRS.
So in your professional opinion, if I'm about to start a business, I really should go to a financial person to set up a financial structure first, or at least go to someone and say, this is what I want to do. What does that look like?
I think that's the conversation, is this is what I want to do and what does that look like? Because the financial structure comes next. If that's something you need help with, that's something we can help you with. The conversation is more so like, you're going to be selling, who you're selling to. We need to know, well, you need to know because it's your business.
Right.
Where are revenue streams? Are you applying for loans? What are your expenses? Are your expenses exceeding your revenue? Which in the first year, it might, but how will you?
It always does. That's like a guarantee, right? Right.
It always does, unless you have
Unless you got it
someone.
like that.
Exactly, unless you got it like that, unless you have a granddad who can
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
support.
yeah.
But yes, that's pretty much what it's going to be like. So I say, speak to a professional, just before you start, just to make sure that you're doing things correctly.
You mentioned that you worked for some very high end corporations, and then decided to do the book to help people who may not have the means to be high end. And you did that right after you got your CPA, right? Like a couple of years later, right?
Yes,
That was a
so
lot. That was a lot. So tell me, that's a lot to do. Just tell us how you decided that, because sitting for the CPA is no joke.
it's not.
No, no, it's not. And then you decide you want to help somebody else. So unpack that for me. How did that go?
Oh, okay, so that's actually a very loaded question, because I feel like first I have to tell you how I got into getting my CPA license. So, interesting fact about me is I did not graduate with an accounting degree from college. I graduated with a marketing and entrepreneurship degree. And my last semester in college at FAU, I started working for this firm in Boca. Basically, I just needed money. That's why I started working for them. They
Mhm.
needed an assistant. I was just like, and I need money. I can assist you and you can pay me.
I get that. I get that.
And I actually grew in the first couple months working there. I grew to really like taxes. I realized that I really like working with people and explaining different things to them, but it also helped me shed light on things that was going on around me. Like for example, a lot of people didn't know, but I had to transfer schools because of financial reasons. So I wasn't getting financial aid because my parents' tax return was done wrong. And when we went to the person who did it to fix it, they fixed it, but the IRS was just like, it's still so bad, we can't accept this.
Ah,
So I was in jeopardy of losing a scholarship and all of that good stuff. And my mom was just like, okay, you need to transfer school so that you can stay home. And stay home, I mean, stay with my sister because she lived closer. And so basically, that's how I got into it. I was just like, wow, like there's a lot of people out here who are, I don't know the proper term, but who are being screwed over.
struggling. Yeah, struggling with it. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. No, but it's the tax preparers that's screwing them over
Oh,
is
yeah,
how.
absolutely.
Yes. So then working for this firm, again, I still had no intentions of becoming a CPA, but then other people started coming to me for help. You know, my brothers, their friends, cousins. And I realized a lot of people need help and they don't really have the right people to help them. And so I was just like, okay, I see this is something that I can get into. So then in 2019, I decided to sit for the CPA. Well, I decided to start studying for the CPA exam. That's like a full-time job
Yes, it is.
in itself. So yes, and I always knew because again, remember one of my degrees was entrepreneurship. I always knew that I wanted to work for myself. Doing what? Who knows? But I always knew that.
You knew it was coming down the line, right? Yeah, I understand.
Exactly.
I get it. Yeah.
So yes, once I got my CPA license, I knew that the next step for me, I didn't know when, but I knew the next step for me was going to be to open up my own firm where I can help people who need me the most. Because where I'm from, I'm originally from Belgrade. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Belgrade, but
Yeah.
they and basically I didn't know what a CPA was, and no one in Belgrade that I spoke to knew what a CPA was. And it's sad because you have these people who are trying to start businesses, and I really watch businesses fail year after year. Like my mom, across the street from her, my mom lives in Belgrade. Across the street from her, was every year it was a new store. It was something different. And I remember my best friend going like, wasn't this a flower shop? And I said, yes, about 10 years ago. Every year it's been something different. And then I had to, growing up, I realized these businesses fail. And I most likely it's because they don't have the help that they need.
It is more than a notion to try to help struggling businesses. So I take my hat off to you because most people put their heart and their hands into their new businesses and they don't want them to fail. And sometimes you have to be the person to tell them, look, this is not going to work. It's time for
Right.
you to, cut and run, or pivot and do something else because it's just not going to work for you financially. So thank you. I take my hat off to you to take on that task because it's not
Mm,
easy, right?
thank you.
So let's first talk about the first chapter. And you said make sure you have a strong team. Team. So unpack that and tell us how important that is about your team
Okay.
structure.
So the reason why that's the first chapter is because we and I'm saying we collectively, it may not apply to you or you or me, but we
It
start
probably
these
does.
or it probably does.
Yeah.
We start these businesses and we end up being, the CEO, the CFO, the COO. We're the IT person. We're the content creator. we're the
Everything,
receptionist.
right? Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
and that can get overwhelming fast. And I feel like that's also why businesses fail. So it's hard trying to be the person who market your business when you have no background in marketing. It's hard to manage the books when you have no background in accounting, or you don't even know how to work QuickBooks or Zero or even Excel. And it makes things a lot harder than it needs to be. So, for example, I have clients who they would come to me, they've been in business for like, let's say 2 years, and their books are a hot mess. And they are getting audited by the IRS. Like, it's a lot. And I try and the best possible way to help them understand that you created this mess, and now it's going to cost you a lot of money to fix it, like a lot of money to fix it.
Yeah,
um
yeah.
and so that's why it's important to create, have your team, because you may be great at what you do, but you're not great at everything. Or maybe you are one of those people who's great at everything, but it's rare. So
Right.
you may, like, for example, I am great at accounting, but when it comes to IT stuff, I can't do any of it. And even though I graduated with a marketing degree, since I never really practice it, I myself have a marketing consultant. So the team is kind of like your backbone, your support. They're helping you get to where you need to be. So trying to do everything on your own, I feel like you're setting yourself up for failure, because you're not giving the one thing that you're great at, or the few things that you're great at, your all, because you have to give it 40%, because you have to give everything else 10%.
Yeah, it takes a while for you to understand that you can't do anything. Like I can't do flyers, I can't do videos, I can't do any of that. So I leave all that to somebody else. It's just is something I cannot do. But it takes it takes about 2 years for you to understand that, okay, you can't be the be all to end all for your business. But I guess the other question I had when it says developing your team, when you first go to sunbiz.org, you don't necessarily have to have the team right then, right?
No.
Okay. And
Unless
go ahead.
you're a nonprofit. A nonprofit does ask you to list, I think, at least three directors.
Mm. But someone who's a sole corporation or LLC doesn't necessarily have to have that membership. Okay, very
No.
good. And tell us about how important it is for us to be very aware of deadlines for federal and state, and how many people miss those, and I have to be they're charged these fees that are unbelievable. Do you find that to be a real problem with the small businesses? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
so many people miss deadlines simply because they are unaware of the deadlines. So, for example, if you are a partnership or an S corporation, your tax return is due March 15th instead of April 15th. But I feel like everybody have the April 15th is tax day, so they have that deadline in their mind, and they don't realize that they've already missed the deadline for the S corporation or the partnership, and now the penalty is going to be very ugly.
Mm.
um, I don't remember how much the penalty is for filing late, but I think it's $250 per shareholder per month that you're late. And exactly, and it's not a nice
Ouch.
penalty. It's not a nice penalty, but um, there is actually a lot of different deadlines. So there's income tax deadlines, there's estimated tax deadlines, there's payroll deadlines, sales tax deadlines. And missing any of those comes with penalties. And then if you owe money, it comes with additional penalties because now they're charging you interest.
Oh my.
Exactly. And so for income tax, they also charge you penalties based on how much you owe. So the more money you owe, the more penalties you have to pay. Um, and I think a lot of people are just unaware of it. So especially for my clients, and I also try to post it on social media to help clients know that, you
This
know,
is the
it's
day. This is the day, guys. This is the day. Yeah. Or
well,
it's coming up.
I don't let them know that day. I try to let them know,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
maybe a week in advance that, hey, file your extension if you need to.
Yeah.
Like,
I think those kind of things are where the assistant comes in, because you're so tied up in your day to day, getting product and putting product out, marketing. And then all of a sudden, here it is. There's this deadline for this thing. Or put them on your calendar. I put everything on my calendar
as you
so
should.
that, yeah, so that I don't miss it, because you can miss it, right? If you
You
don't do that,
definitely
right?
can.
So thank you for that. The other thing is, let's talk about tax credits and how they can be implemented in businesses. I'm not really savvy on that either, so I really would like your knowledge.
Okay, so tax credits. We won't get deep into tax credits because that's like a day of conversation.
Okay,
At least a
just
day of
give
conversation.
us a little.
But okay, so when you start a business, the government is looking at you like this. You're an employer, or you have the potential to be an employer, meaning you're creating jobs, meaning you're stimulating the economy, meaning you're doing what they want you to do. So they're going to reward you for it. And that's basically what the tax code is. The tax code is kind of like, oh yeah, taxes are just, here to make people paid. No, you have to do things that the government want you to do, and they will actually reward you for it. So when people have the conversation of, I truly hate this conversation. Oh, they need to raise tax on the rich, the wealthy. They do raise tax on the wealthy, but the wealthy also, they turn back around and
Get it
invest a
back.
portion. Yes, invest a portion of their money into something that the government wants them to do, renewable resources, charitable contribute, something. They do something to the point where they don't have to pay taxes. So yes, the lower and middle classes do pay more taxes technically than, the wealthy, but that's because they're able to use the tax code to their advantage because they have, that team. That's where, the team comes in. They
Right.
have that team to be able to tell them these things, which a lot of, especially new businesses, they don't know these things. So, for example, tax credits, one of my favorite tax credits, I think it expires very soon, is the work opportunity tax credit. So it's a tax credit for employing someone who's in a targeted group, and the IRS defines a targeted group like, convicted felon, someone who is hard, it's hard for them to find jobs.
Senior
Um,
citizens, anybody over 65, that type of thing, or no?
I don't think anyone over 65 will qualify.
Oh,
The IRS list out like what would be considered. So I know to me, one of the popular ones are convicted felons
right,
because, um, and I do work with a lot of people in the trucking industry, and convicted felons, I feel like that's where they strive the most.
right.
So exactly, let them know, hey, make sure you're claiming this tax credit. What else? Like for during COVID time, the employer retention tax credit, employee retention tax credit. So, so that your employees don't have to lose their jobs, things like that. So there's a lot out there, different things, doing research for certain programs. You can get tax credit for a lot of things, renewable resources, a lot of these things.
Yeah, I'm sure the list is tremendous, right?
Oh yeah.
But
I
I
think
think
in the book, I think I listed out like
you do,
all
you
of
do.
the, yeah.
And let's talk about, since we were talking about COVID for just 1 second, More than ever before, entrepreneurs are doing business out of their homes. Have there been any crucial changes in taxes, exemptions since the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes, but for people doing business out of their home, not really. So you have the business in the home deduction, but that's been the same since I've been doing
Forever. Yeah,
this.
yeah, forever. Yeah.
There have been some changes, like the PPP that was very popular. That was for employers to be able to retain their employees, or at least I should say pay their employees. Yeah,
Hey.
that's pay their employees. Um, the ERC credit, they did raise some things, like for example, they allowed the above the line charitable contribution for personal tax return, just little things. But yes, they made some um for like people who have small kids in daycare, they raised that credit by a lot. That was a big one. But yes, little things were done here and there, but nothing major really. I think the biggest things were, PPP and employee retention.
So you still allowed to take off a portion of your home, electricity, and all that stuff. Okay.
Yes, so you can still take that, but the way that that works, because that's something that's an area that's highly audited. So some people think that,
Just don't
oh,
even do it.
exactly. Some people think, oh, I pay $2,000 for rent every month, so I'm going to deduct $24,000 for the. It doesn't work like that. You have to deduct just the small portion that you use as an office. So if you have an actual room that's a home that you turn into a home office, is
Right.
the size of that room divided by the size of the entire house.
So it's usually a 10 by 10 or 10 by 20
Yeah.
space. Okay.
Yes.
And then how do you do the electricity and all that?
The same way, it's all divided by that percentage. So
Okay.
whatever percent, so if your home office is 15% of your home, then so will all of, like, the electricity, any repairs that you had to make, the rent. The only thing that you can get away with taking about 100% on are things like internet, because that's arguable.
Right. Right.
But that's how the IRS works. As long as it's as long as you can argue your case and it makes sense, you'll probably win the audit.
Right. 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 So now that when I read the book, I was very curious as to why you decided to give information on every state. That was a lot. The websites, and I mean, you just could have done Florida and said, okay, I'm good. But you didn't do that. What made you decide to just branch out and say, listen, I'm going to try to give information for every state I can?
Because my clients are not only in Florida.
Okay.
And I didn't want anyone who is my specific client to be like, hey, we felt left out here.
Right,
But
right,
yes,
right.
I actually work with a lot of clients that's located in the Northeast. So Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland. I have clients in California, Georgia. There's some states I don't have clients in, but I had to have the mentality of, you don't really know who's going to pick up your book. And whoever picks it up, I want it to be able to help them as much as possible. I had a random CPA reached out to me actually. It was like, hey, I read your book. I think it's located in one of the Carolinas. I'm not, don't quote me on this, but another state.
Yeah.
And they're just like, hey, I read your book. I really liked it. And I was like, oh, nice.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I have your book in my suitcase. Do you have it right there? I took it on vacation with me. Do you have a copy of it right there to show, or I'll look for it? That's all right.
Oh,
I got
I
it right here. I got it right
do not.
I finished it while I was on vacation. So here it is, everybody. It's Entrepreneurship 101, the things your CPA wants you to know regarding your business. Now, I took that as 101 things, but I think you meant it as like English 101.
Yes, like
All
it's
right.
the basics, it's the
Okay, so,
startup.
but there's about 101 things in there.
It's a lot of things in
Yeah,
there. So yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
about
yeah,
101
yeah.
things in there.
Yeah. And then once I said it, I thought, oh, I don't think that's what she meant. But you were like a class, English 101, Algebra 101. But there's about 101 things in here in this book. And so there's a couple of other questions I want to ask you. So why is the business plan a crucial first step for the business?
So the business plan helps you map out everything before you begin. Because a lot of people, they start the business like, oh, I'm great at what I do. I know that I can start a business, but you don't really think about the competition in the industry. You don't think about what other people are doing. You don't think about the financial plan. You don't think about your exit strategy in case it doesn't happen. And the business plan forces you to think about all of these things. It forces you to think about who are your customers, because some people think, oh, I can just sell to everyone. No, not really. Who are your customers? What is the best marketing strategy for you? Because it's not the same for everyone. Of course, social media is hot right now, but maybe, ads would be your best way. So it forces you to look at every possible way of doing things and figuring out which way is the best for you.
And that is in the book, and it really takes you through each segment of the business plan, which is, I wish I had this 12 years ago. I'm just saying, it would have helped a lot.
What?
So thank you so much. And you took the time to do sales taxes. You took the time to do loss and allowances statements. I just, thank you. I really
I'm
think this,
really glad you
no,
enjoyed it.
I
I'm
just
really
really,
glad.
yeah, I was on vacation and my friends were saying, what are you reading? So listen, I have a business. I got this gold book here. I need to find out what exactly I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. And I certainly appreciated it. And I hope everybody will get a copy of your book and tell us how we do that. Because I was complimented a book and I appreciate that. But I want everyone else to know how to get a copy.
It is on Amazon. Right now it's paperback and ebook. We are working on the audiobook. And so hopefully that will come soon. But with tax season slowly creeping on me,
Yes.
I cannot promise anything, but it will come soon. So yes, it is on Amazon. You can just type in the Entrepreneurship 101 and you should see it.
So you don't have your own website we could buy it from or no?
No, I sell
Okay.
it from
It's completely
Amazon.
from Amazon.
Yes.
Um, so what's next for Rebecca David, CPA?
That is such a good question because the answer is honestly, I don't know.
No.
It's kind of like how I told you that I had no plans of becoming a CPA, but one day it just happened. But I do know that I seem to like put out fires as it come along. I seem to tackle problems when it gets here. But my business, of course, is here to stay, hopefully forever. So yes, so now I'm just focusing on trying to reach as many clients as I can. Hopefully they enjoy the book. Hopefully the book really helps them, and just growing my business to the point where I can help a lot more people.
So are you a sole person in your association or do you have other CPAs with you?
No, right now it's just me.
Okay.
I'm the only CPA. an assistant. I have another accountant. She is more so on call during tax season. She's a very close friend of mine.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, she's a very close friend of mine. She's an accountant and she helps me out as I need her during tax season.
So we ask everybody to give us a pearl of wisdom at the end of each of our shows, and we'll ask you for one right now.
Oh, one of the main things I would say is
Get your taxes done. Do your taxes.
Always. Entrepreneurship is not for everyone, so please do not let social media bully you into thinking that you're not doing enough with your life if you're not an entrepreneur and you don't own your own business, because a lot of things that we see, especially nowadays on social media, is fake. People would tell you this and that, but it's all fake. A lot of people are struggling just as much as you are. A lot of people are, but they don't let you see these sides, that side of it. So don't get pressured into doing things that you're not ready for, because it's a lot. Entrepreneurship is hard work. Yes, it's a lot to take on. And if you do end up going that route, then make sure you purchase the book so that you can do everything correctly. Yeah.
And so thank you. We look forward to seeing you in February. Anyone have any questions for Reberca before she leaves? No? What most people don't understand when they look at us, right? We had 20-year careers somewhere else. Now we're entrepreneurs, right?
Yes.
So that's different than being a young person like yourself, trying to come out the gate and do that. It's a little bit hard. And so, yeah, social media will make you look like, this is something you've done all your life and you're just so good at it. I'm like, nah, dude. I had 20 years with the federal government first, and now I am an entrepreneur. And that shift is very, very different. And I think people need to understand that, right?
Exactly.
Like Mama Tony and Janice and Stan and Martin, we all worked for somebody else before we decided to be entrepreneurs. And so there was some cushion and some knowledge that came with that. And
definitely. And even though I worked for someone for a short time, I think I was in the field for like 6 years before I started my own business. But honestly, I feel like the other CPAs that I work under, they were so smart, they were so knowledgeable, and I did learn most
and you
of everything.
just took all that in,
Yes.
I think being a CPA is a little different, because being a CPA is like being someone who owns a liquor store and a funeral home.
In a what?
And a funeral home. You always need a CPA. You always need somebody to look at those numbers. So you have a guaranteed, an abundance of people who need help, which is
exactly
really nice. Yeah.
Because listen, everyone has to file their taxes.
Everybody has to file their taxes, whether you like it or not.
Exactly, so, whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not. So it's really nice to have a ready-made group of people that you can take your business to. So thank you, Reberca. I appreciate you. And of course, I appreciate you all for being here on Monday nights with me every Monday night. And Reberca, we'll see you in February. And when the lights go out and the cell phone towers go down, all you have left is a flashlight and a good book. We'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Reberca. I'll send you this as soon as I send it up to YouTube.
Thank you.
Okay. Good night. Good night, everybody.